What's that? You want to be scared? Come with me. You will experience tales of horror, ghosts, and death. It is not recommended for the weak at heart. Listen in the dark. It's more fun that way. This is Weekly Spooky.
Hello, my friends, and thank you for joining me for another piece of spooky on the Weekly. I am Henrik Kuto, your narrator and host, and am I feeling the spirit? I might be. I might have my Christmas tree up, and I hope those of you who celebrate are feeling joyous, and I hope even if you don't celebrate, you're feeling somewhat joyous. We're getting ready to celebrate the end of 2020 and the beginning of 2021, and many of us have many opinions about, how to send off a year like 2020. And this week we've got yet another holiday-themed story for you. This one written by my good friend Michelle. Michelle is a talented musician, talented writer, comic book illustrator, and my co-host on the other podcast I do, which is called This Show is Awkward, which if you're looking for a weekly talk podcast, go ahead and search This Show is Awkward on your favorite podcast app and take a look. But before we get to the story, which is really pretty excellent, I want to mention that we have a brand new book available now at Amazon.com. It's a book called Babysitter Massacre, Daddy's Little Killer, and it's written by David O'Hanlon. David, who has written many great stories for us on the show. We've written a novel. He and I collaborated on it and have released it on paperback and ebook, available at Amazon.com. Please check out the book and give it a little bit of support. Babysitter Massacre is the film franchise that I created, and we are now expanding it in the literary universe. So please go check that out. Amazon.com. Give it a search. You'll find it. And but for now, I think it's time we head to a quaint little burg where Christmas is all the rage. It's the most important thing there is to do, and I'm sure no one is harboring dark secrets. So let's go to that right now. Welcome to Tiny Christmas, Iowa, by Michelle Adler. I let out a sigh as my Uber passed the "Now entering Tiny Christmas, Iowa" sign. According to the sign, it's the tiniest, most Christmassiest place in all of Iowa. My Uber driver Ajit chuckled, sensing my displeasure. I'm sure it's just as Christmassy as all fuck, I say, trying to come off as cheery and almost succeeding until that curse word at the end. I lied on my interview. I hate Christmas. I hate the Midwest. The only thing I know about Iowa is that it's a Slipknot album, and I've never designed a window display in my life. I am just an unemployable, grumpy freelance graphic designer from New York City trying to find any work that isn't stocking shelves at a grocery store. To be honest, I didn't realize the position was out of state until after I'd applied. I'd initially intended to turn the job down as I'd never had any desire to live anywhere other than the city that never sleeps. The high-rise condos, rats, street vendors, homeless people on every street corner, bodegas also on every corner, and constant bustle are things I've lived for. But at this point, maybe it's time to stop pretending I could make it in NYC anymore. It wasn't like I had a support system either. No family left and no friends to speak of. I hadn't even been on a date in the last 2 years. My social life revolved mostly around my interactions with my landlord, none of which were pleasant. I heard that she was so happy I was leaving, apparently she even threw me a goodbye party. After I left. I lived for my work, but things have been so hard lately. Maybe it was time for me to give up. Maybe it was time for me to start over. "Ma'am, that's all good and fine, but we're here," Ajit said while simultaneously unlocking the doors. I hadn't realized we'd even stopped. Or that I was talking out loud. I guess it had been a while since I'd been around other people. I started to open the door before even looking at where I was. When I did, I pulled it back shut. "This can't be right," I mumbled, fumbling for my phone to pull up the address I'd been given. I was sure I was supposed to be in front of a house, my new house, or, I don't know, anything, but instead we sat in a desolate parking lot on the outskirts of what was hopefully the correct town at least, though it looked anything but Christmassy. In front of me bloomed an industrial complex with a small collection of seemingly long abandoned warehouses and factories. I felt a jolt of fear ping through my body. It was quiet here. Too quiet. Quiet enough for me to be raped and murdered without anyone noticing. This is as far as I can take you. I jumped as I realized Ajit was already grabbing my luggage from the trunk. What? Why? So no murder then? It's a small town and a beautiful day. Why not take a nice stroll through town on your way? I think the farmer's market goes till 3. He dodged. No, I don't want to walk and it's 30 degrees, I said while repositioning the luggage he'd removed back into the Uber. I just want you to finish driving me. What's the big deal? It's your job, for Christ's sake. Ajit paused. Listen, I don't go in there. Tiny Christmas is not a town for people like me. He pointed to his turban. They're racist? I don't know what you want to call it, but I just don't want to spend the afternoon stuck in there while they try to convert me again. Last time I didn't even get to take a lunch break, and I'm really hungry today, so you're on your own, he said as he finished removing my luggage. Like I said, small town, very friendly. I'm sure you'll have no problem finding the place. Well, I personally respect the Islamic religion. I chased him as he walked back around to the driver's side door and pulled it open. I'll even buy you lunch. How's that? Nope. Therapist said I need to start defining my boundaries or people are going to walk all over me for the rest of my life. He slammed the door and pressed the lock down. Enjoy your stay in Tiny Christmas. I'm sure you'll have a wonderful time. With that, he and his Nissan Altima pulled out of the lot. Wait! You can't be serious! And I'm a Sikh, you asshole! He called back as he sped away. I stood there, shivering in the cold, confused and becoming increasingly angry at my predicament. No, you're the asshole, I grumbled as I grabbed my luggage and resigned myself to walking into town. As I'd mentioned before, I was basically left to fend for myself in an abandoned wasteland. A beautiful young woman such as myself should not have to subject herself to such a dangerous situation. I pushed through the dystopian scenery with a confident stride, preparing myself for whatever unsavory situation lay ahead of me. However, when I finally rounded the last warehouse, I was not prepared for what I saw. Ahead of me, across a set of train tracks, lay the most adorable little downtown I'd ever laid my eyes on. As I walked onward, the air became filled with the scent of pine, cinnamon, and roasted chestnuts. The streets were packed with happy-looking townsfolk, each one going out of their way to say hello as I passed. And Ajit was right. There was a farmer's market. As nice as this all was, I have to admit I was a little uncomfortable with the level of friendliness and Christmas I was experiencing. I felt a bit of guilt well up inside me for not immediately being drawn into the merriness. I managed to brush it off quickly, though. I wasn't wrong. They were the ones that were wrong. As I slowly became increasingly annoyed at the pleasantries, I happened upon a coffee shop. "Welcome to Christmas coffee!" An overweight elderly woman hollered in an alarmingly cheery tone as the door jingled closed behind me. Would you be able to point me in the direction of 616 Pine Street? I am an unemployed graphic designer with no chit-chat skills. Oh, I know who you are. You're the new window display coordinator from the big city. Well, yes, and I'm running late. Oh, sweetie, you look just about chilled to the bone. Did some ethnic cab driver refuse to take you the whole way? She asked. I wondered how common of a thing that was. Here you go. She poured a cup of coffee and slid it to me. Free coffee, on the house. I'm Amanda, by the way. I took the coffee, avoiding her outstretched arm. That's really nice of you. I'll be sure to stop back when I'm settled, but I'm running late right now, so... Yeah, I was never coming back. Oh, right. 616 Pine, was it? Make a left, then it's 2 blocks down. You couldn't even miss it if you wanted to. I thanked her and sped out the door before she could continue to waste my time. I took a sip of the coffee as I walked out into the holiday pandemonium and stopped dead as the warmth hit my tongue. This was The best cup of coffee I'd ever had in my entire life. It was rich and full-bodied with notes of cinnamon, allspice, and honey. It brought back a flood of childhood memories. Drinking hot chocolate after school as my mother brushed the snow out of my hair. Watching movies huddled by the fire. My mother's warmth as she rocked me to sleep. God, I missed her. If only, I thought, I could have something like that again in a real, non-coffee-based sense. Wait, what was I thinking? I am a powerful, competent, unemployed graphic designer. I'd never wish for a family, I convinced myself, brushing the tears from my eyes. I went to take another sip of coffee, but I was beginning to feel nauseous, so instead I dropped it in the next available garbage can. Amanda was right. This place was hard to miss. 2 blocks down was almost a full mile away, and basically in the woods. The quaint Tudor with 616 scrolled across the door was the only building on the entire street. As I walked up the driveway, I realized how eerily quiet it had become. I hadn't seen a single car pass me in the last half a mile. I shivered as the wind whipped up. This was the perfect place for an unsuspecting young woman to be raped and murdered. I was all alone. No, wait. I was being watched. "Well, hello there, Rachel!" I jumped as the door of the house popped open to reveal a smiling middle-aged man in a suit. Hi. I tried to collect myself. "You must be..." "Correct. I'm Jake from the agency. So glad you were able to find your way here. I was getting a little worried that you hadn't been able to find a ride into town." "Funny you should say that. Anyway, this is the place." He cut me off, holding the door open, beckoning me inside. The interior, despite having a certain charm, was covered in a layer of dust and white sheets. The air had a musty quality that signaled that this place had been long forgotten. I sighed. I do not like cleaning. "As mentioned earlier," he continued, "it's $250 a month and you're responsible for paying all utilities as well as any yard work or snow removal that needs to be done. Also, I think there are Christmas lights in the basement, so you won't even need to buy any to decorate." "I won't be needing them, but thank you. I just want to settle in." "Oh." He seemed crushed. "Well, they're in there in case you change your mind. It would probably go a long way to making this place feel like home." Thanks. How long has it been vacant?" I slid my fingers through the dust on the fireplace mantel and almost gagged at the many years of dead skin cells. "About 5 years, I think." Why so long?" "I couldn't really tell you. I'm just a real estate agent. I don't own it or anything," he shrugged. "Oh. Well, I mean, if I had to guess, maybe it was the murders." "Murders?" I parroted. "See, I knew I was going to be raped and killed. Sorry, I misspoke. Disappearances is what I mean. It's not really murder without a body," Jake said matter-of-factly. "But anyway, that was a long time ago, and I heard that tenant was, really into meth, so it was likely drug-related." "Wait, didn't you say—" "Anyway, here are the keys." He handed them to me while also turning the doorknob. "You should be good to go. Have a wonderful life in Tiny Christmas." And with that, he was already halfway down the walk. Murders? I had an unremarkable first night despite wondering just how many disappearances Jake had accidentally inferred. I tried not to concentrate on it too much. I was starting my new job the next morning, after all. Holidays and More occupied the largest building in town. It was 2 floors of highly polished marble and glass. The first floor held the perfect area for a window display, but was currently empty. This will be my canvas, I thought. I put my hand up to the glass wistfully, only to have it slapped from the other side of the glass by a burly man with a beard. I jumped back and he let out a chuckle and motioned me to come inside. "I'm Mr. Santon, the general manager," the burly man explained, giving me a firm handshake. "Great to meet you in person. Thanks so much for the job. We're just so pleased you accepted it. The entire board was unanimous in the decision to hire you. Your plan for a Christmas display that gets us back to our roots is genius. Before I could finish, he pulled me in for a hug. Say no more, Ms. Adler. We're just so happy we can add you, another true believer of the magic of Christmas, to our wonderful family, he said while patting me on the back. I recoiled slightly, and he seemed to catch my discomfort and let me go. Sorry, I just love Christmas so much I get carried away sometimes. I should probably get to work, right? I deflected. Oh, of course. There's only 2 weeks till the big reveal after all. I'm sure every second counts. Mr. Santon led me over to my workspace and introduced me to my assistant, Tom Thompson, a tall and slightly too handsome man in a red vest. I felt uncomfortable for looking at him for too long, like I might, blush if I did. You know, Tom, you could take notes from Ms. Adler here, Mr. Santon said before leaving. Up your holiday game a little and maybe you'll be the next one promoted. Tom looked towards me and let out a little sigh. Yes, sir. On that first day, we spent most of our time going through boxes, taking inventory of what supplies the store already had so I'd know what we would need to buy. So, I broke the silence. Mr. Santan wants you to up your holiday game, eh? Yeah, I guess he's noticed I haven't been my normal, cheery self for the last couple of years. He seemed as surprised by that timeline as I did. That's a long time to not be happy. Like I'd know what happy was. I was a weirdly employed graphic designer caught in what was increasingly feeling like a low-budget Christmas movie. I guess so. I just haven't been myself since my wife died. Oh, he was single and not even the divorced kind. Widowed. The good kind of single. I stopped going through the box of Christmas lights. My hands were shaking. Yeah, it was really tragic. She hit a deer. He was going on about his dead wife, but all I could concentrate on was my own heartbeat as it began to speed up. Why did I care if this guy was single? What was happening to me? I concentrated on regaining my composure. I just needed to take it easy. This had been a big move, a huge change, and I'd lost my bearings. It was perfectly reasonable that I would feel confused and even want to fit in. Things would get less weird once I was used to my surroundings. And then when we took her off life support, oh God, he was still going. I just don't think I'll ever really love anyone again, you know? I get it, but you're young. You'll meet someone again when you're ready, I tried to console. He blushed slightly. You're a really good listener, you know? Hey, would you like to come over for dinner on Sunday? We make a big meal after church, so it's always nice to have some extra company. Oh, no. I don't want to impose. We don't really know each other, and please, I think of it as me repaying you for your kindness for letting me dump all my problems on you like this, he begged. Well, when you put it that way, sure. After a relatively uneventful week, I awoke from a particularly weird nightmare at 3 a.m. Saturday morning to the sound of talking. Frustrated and groggy, I did what any good New Yorker would. I pushed the window open with a level of violence that this house had probably never seen and leaned out into the dark. Shut the fuck up or I'll fucking come down there and murder you! I yelled, then slammed the window shut and lay back down. It was quiet for a minute, but then... Was that chanting? By that point, my complete consciousness had returned, and I realized that I was no longer in an apartment. I was in a house. I was in a completely isolated house. No one should be outside. I lay there in silence, trying to get a grasp on what I was hearing. Chanting? Crying? Maybe it was a wild animal, I thought. I'd heard foxes kind of sound like people. Honestly, I didn't want it to be people or animals. Both seemed like they could be dangerous, and for the first time since the day I'd moved in, I considered what the word disappearances could possibly mean. After what may have been hours, the strange noises dissipated, but I did not sleep for the rest of the night. In the morning, I decided maybe I would put up those Christmas lights. The house had no exterior lighting at all, and seeing as it had sat unoccupied, there was a chance someone could still think it was vacant and try to break in, if the noises I'd heard were people anyway. If it was foxes or wolves or something, the light should deter them too. Despite being opposed to my core beliefs, I'd do it for my safety. I found a box with one whole strand of lights in it in the basement, just enough to do the awning out front. I figured it was better than nothing, and it also meant I didn't have to spend all day putting them up, so win-win. There was, however, another box in the basement. I'd thought it was more Christmas decorations originally since there was a piece of garland at the top, but when I brought it upstairs I realized that what I'd really found was a gun. A shotgun of some sort, to be more specific. Along with it was a little box with just a few bullets in it. 7. I counted. I'd never really handled a gun before, and felt conflicted about realizing that it had been in the house with me for the last week. Whose was it, and why would they leave it anyway? Shit, for all I knew all houses in Iowa came with guns. After some careful contemplation and YouTube videos, I decided to keep it by the door, loaded, in case I did end up running into whatever I had heard the night prior. When I heard the noises again that night, I at least managed to convince myself I could protect myself, and got the smallest bit of sleep. By the time Tom came to pick me up on Sunday, I was already exhausted and a little jumpy. "You look tired, are you okay?" he asked as I fastened my seatbelt. His genuine concern made my heart feel all warm for some reason. "Yeah, just, insomnia. I used to have that real bad when Joanne first died. It's hard being in that house all alone, huh?" "Not really, why would it be hard?" "I just guess I find being alone really difficult. Everyone needs someone to hold at night," he informed me. Was he suggesting he wanted to hold me at night? We arrived at his parents' lovely little colonial only a few minutes later. I may have neglected to say this, but he'd been living with his family since his wife died. I thought it was a little weird, but I also knew grief could really mess up a person, so it was better I didn't judge. Anyway, the house was all decked out in a literal ton of blinking Christmas lights, outside and in. It was really too distracting and tacky for my taste. His mom and dad hugged me immediately as we entered and thanked me for taking such good care of their son. Did they think we were a couple? Did I want us to be a couple? What? No! We had a nice dinner and his family told me stories about what Tom was like growing up. After dinner, they wanted to sing Christmas carols, so his mom gathered us around the piano as his father played. I don't know any full carols, but I managed to stumble through all right. We laughed a lot. It was really nice to feel like I was a part of something again. It made me miss my parents terribly. I wanted so much to feel safe and loved like that again. Maybe, I thought, just maybe the Thompsons could be my new family. Maybe this place could be my new something to be a part of. We kissed in my driveway before I got out of the car. He told me he was falling for me. Maybe I was falling for him too. I woke up in a pure panic at 3 a.m. I wasn't even aware of why I was so scared for a minute, until the events of the evening came back to me. Something was terribly wrong with me, and the noises were back. The next week was crunch time. We had to make this display the most wonderful the town had ever seen. We could do it. I knew we could. Tom and I spent most of our waking hours together making sure everything was perfect for the big reveal on Friday night. Well, he spent most of his waking hours. I mean, he was probably sleeping. I was still hearing those weird noises. However, I was beginning to think that living in the country just meant hearing unexplained sounds at night. It was nothing to worry about, and I had that gun, just in case, which I decided to leave by my front door indefinitely. Plus, Tom and I were considering moving in together, so he would be able to protect me. Everything was okay. Everything was better than expected. Friday went wonderfully. Mr. Santon praised us both and offered me a permanent position, which I gladly accepted. I invited Tom over that evening to celebrate. "So, are you going back to New York City for Christmas?" he asked me as we cuddled on the couch. Christmas was just 5 days away, wasn't it? "Nah, I'm just gonna get some Chinese food and watch movies." "That sounds really sad, Rachel. You should come over to my house. We always decorate our tree on Christmas Eve, then we do presents in the morning. You can sleep over, it'll be fun," he suggested. "My family loves you, so I'm sure they'd be happy to have you." "That sounds really nice, but actually I think I just want to take it easy." "Oh." His expression fell. "No, it's not like that, but I needed to be honest with the man I loved. I've been lying to you. I'm not..." There was that chanting again. "Lying?" he asked, but then saw the fear on his face. "What's wrong? Do you hear that?" "What is that?" I said in a whisper, my voice shaking. Tom listened for a second. "The singing? That's carolers, isn't it?" I held my breath to try to ascertain what I was hearing. It was getting closer this time. Tom was right. It was people singing. "Carolers," I breathed. "Yep, the weekend before Christmas they go out and sing at people's houses. Didn't you have that in New York?" I shook my head. Had this been what I was hearing the whole time? Carolers practicing somewhere? It sounds like they're right outside. I jumped as the doorbell rang, but convinced myself it was okay to answer it. Outside were 7 of the townsfolk, decked out in Christmassy attire. As soon as they saw me, they began to sing. I wasn't familiar with the song, but it was just so beautiful that tears started coming to my eyes. Here I'd been all worked up about people singing Christmas songs. This wasn't New York City. Nothing was going to try to hurt me here. No one had been anything other than kind to me. I stood in the doorway listening for a long time, just taking in the joy. I let the New Yorker part of me fade. It was okay now. I was okay. Maybe I should go get some money for them or something, I thought. That was the least I could do for this kind of spiritual awakening, right? I was about to turn around to find my purse when something stopped me. I stopped me. What the fuck was I doing? I was a savvy fucking New Yorker. I didn't need this dumb shit. This wasn't even what I wanted at all. What was I even doing with this boring, sad guy? I didn't even like men, and I hated Christmas carols. "Hey, can you guys... That's enough. Can you stop now?" I pleaded. "Really, please stop." No one seemed to hear me. I felt a deep primal fear rise up in my stomach. I needed to lie down or something. I needed them to stop singing already. "Tom, can you..." I turned around just in time to see Tom lunge at me with a weird-looking knife. Instinctively, I dodged and pushed him to the ground. I am a New Yorker who knows how to defend myself. I grabbed the shotgun. "Aww," the carolers grumbled in unison. "What the fuck is going on here?" I spat, clenching my weapon tightly. "You ruined everything, that's what," one of them moaned. I pointed my gun at the small crowd. "Are you trying to disappear me? Is that what this is?" "You know, Tom, if you hadn't waited so long," one of them began. Tom was now sulking on the ground behind me. I was waving the gun wildly between him and the carolers now. "I just wanted it to be perfect. I'm sorry, guys," Tom shrugged. "She's gonna taste like shit now. Adrenaline fucks everything up," another said. "Will someone please tell me what's going on?" I shouted. "Tell me or I kill every one of you." Tom sighed. "We were just trying to teach you the true meaning of Christmas." "By killing me?" "Of course not. Think of all the love we showed you these past couple of weeks. That's the true meaning of Christmas." I recognized this one. It was the woman from the cafe. "We know you felt it. We could tell." "Felt it? This isn't me. What did you do? Have you been putting something in my food?" "Aw, sweetie, don't be so paranoid. Everything we gave you was simply made with love. Something you've been sorely lacking," Amanda explained. "Well, that and just a teensy tiny bit of LSD. The others nodded in agreement. "You fucking dosed me with LSD?" "What we did, Rachel, was give you the best 2 weeks of your life. We even got you back in touch with your religion," said Mr. Santon. "My what?" "Now you can die happily," Tom chimed in, now standing over me with that knife, smiling manically. "I'm Jewish, you assholes!" I screamed and shot a bullet into Tom's confused-looking face. His body thudded to the floor. "Oh man, how are we going to explain this to everyone?" they whined as I turned my gun back to them. Can we even sacrifice a Jew? You're not sacrificing anyone. If you try, I'll blow all your goddamn brains out, I threatened, holding the shotgun mere inches from them. But they ignored my warning and continued discussing my murder like I wasn't even there. Fucking rude townies. It's not ideal, but where are we going to find a Christian this close to the ceremony? Santon explained. A Jew is probably better than nothing, even if she is all upset and will probably taste like sadness. Hey, I bet I taste just fine. What was I saying? I did probably taste like sadness, but that wasn't the point. They were trying to kill me. I knew if I wanted to survive the night and ever see my actual home again, I was going to have to stand my ground and take those fuckers out then and there. I broke their disagreement with a single shot, fired directly into the chest of the weirdo closest to me. He fell to the ground in a motionless heap. That was finally the motivation the rest needed to actually come at me, but I was the one with the gun. What? You're not even gonna try to rape me first? I shouted as I fired mercilessly into them. Turns out it isn't actually that hard to shoot people when they're that close to you. I don't know if I killed them all, but I certainly shot them enough to make it so they'd have a hard time chasing me if they survive. I ran as far away as I could before calling you. I don't know if others are coming for me, but I'll be ready if they do. I would have called the police, but I'm sure they're in on it. You were right. That town is crazy. Ajit let out a sigh. How many times, he wondered, was he going to help people flee from a crime scene? This couldn't be worth the money. He'd be better off working for one of those takeout services. Yeah, he was going to sign up once he got home. No more transporting crazy people, just transporting food to crazy people. Wait, weren't there 8 of them total? He asked, hoping this didn't set her off. Didn't you say that gun only had 7 bullets? Doesn't that mean you missed one? Rachel thought for a second. Nope, she'd definitely shot 8 cultists. She'd counted. I guess you could call it a Hanukkah miracle. She giggled. Ajit let out a fake laugh, not sure what she meant. So, airport then? Yeah, please. Now, if that didn't make you feel some holiday cheer, I don't know what will. Michelle really came through. I actually asked her to write us a Hanukkah story, and boy did she, but in the most interesting way ever. So if you're like me and you love those Hallmark Christmas movies, and you love those Lifetime Christmas movies, this film really kind of turns that on its ear and really delivers the goods. And and for those who aren't super familiar with Hanukkah, the 8 shots instead of 7, that's I gotta be honest. I've been friends with Michelle for a really long time, and she's written 2 stories for me. One for the Campfire Stories to Tell in the Dark book, and one for this podcast just now. And I love her writing very, very much. I love her sense of humor. I broke and had to stop recording and rewind and re-record multiple times because I could not stop laughing at some of the lines in this. So thank you so much, Michelle. What a great story. Really glad to have it on the show and really glad to have you writing some more. Speaking of new writings, I want to mention, I know I mentioned it at the beginning of the show, but I want to mention it again. We have a brand new book available on ebook and paperbook at Amazon.com called Babysitter Massacre, Daddy's Little Killer. Grab yourself a copy. It would really mean a lot to me, to the show, and to the authors to have the book get out into your hands. And speaking of all of you guys who have been wonderful supporters, thank you so much for everybody who has been buying merchandise at WeeklySpooky.com, who has been subscribing and leaving reviews on Amazon and iTunes for the show. And thank you so much to our podcast boosters on Patreon, Kevin Fry, Karen Weemet, Rob Fields, Craig Cohen, and Jeff Hilton. Thank you guys so much for helping us bring you the spooky on the weekly. I gotta get out of here, my friends, but please go to WeeklySpooky.com for any information you need. For myself, for Ray Mattis, our composer, and my producer, Dan Wilder, I will talk at you later, my friends.
Thank you for listening. Make sure to find your way back next week. But for now, you are safe. Trust me.